All right, I guess we're ready to begin with our jobs panel. Thank you for coming today. My name is Paul Best. I'll be moderating, and I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves and just give a little bit of information about what they do. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, my name is Dave Butler. My wife and I, Christine, moved to Nashua in the fall of 2011 for the Free State Project, and I brought my job with me, and I work from home.
Hello, my name is Nelson Lorenzo. I moved to New Hampshire 2 years ago from Southern California, and I currently work for myself. I'm a graphic designer and a web developer.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany. I moved to New Hampshire a year ago this weekend. Woo! I am a technical recruiter, and so I work to place IT professionals in companies from Boston to Manchester.
I'm Melissa, and I work for, I moved here 2 years ago about this time, and I work for a tech company in Nashua, and so, yeah.
All right, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on questions. We have a couple questions, so going to give you guys an idea, but we really want to leave a lot of time for your questions because I know you have them. But the first question we have for the panel is just to give a little bit of background of each of their experiences finding work in New Hampshire.
So for me, I brought my job with me, so I really didn't have to find a new job while here, and I actually do have some points on that I'd like to talk about maybe later on, but for my personal experience, my wife and I were sitting around deciding what we wanted to do because our kids were grown, and she had been to Maine a couple of times, really loved it, and so she said, let's move to Maine. So she started doing some research on the internet, found that, Maine probably not the best place for us politically, and she found New Hampshire. We had never heard of the Free State Project, really had no exposure to New Hampshire as a state. So, she's like, hey, New Hampshire's like the most libertarian state. It doesn't have like a lot of taxes, and, we can move there and it'll be great. So we did. We signed up for the Free State Project, and 6 months later, we were here. And for work, I actually interviewed for and got a work from home position. We didn't start out to be work from home, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But it became work from home, and I think this is something that if you have an office job, you can convert it to a work from home job, and there's some very specific steps I'm going to talk about later to do that. So,
as far as acquiring a job, for me, luckily, I found a job within 2 weeks of arriving in New Hampshire. I actually had multiple offers, so I had it was a pretty fortunate luxury. My intention is to work for myself, and I already had something going back in California. But for the sake of security, and I took it, and it was a full-time job, corporate, working in-house for a technology company in Portsmouth. But it was quite easy to attain, and I didn't have any trouble there. I used Indeed, and I definitely sing the praises of that particular website. I know some other people here on the panel would agree with that.
I moved when I moved. My husband and I made a decision. He started searching. I was like, I'm going to put it off until like 4 to 6 weeks. I have an HR background. I'm like, I know how it works. Well, he found a job in 3.5 weeks that was seasonal. They needed an operations manager for a summer camp, and they needed him yesterday. And they hired us, both of us. They gave me a photography position. Really cool. Never done that before. And they paid us enough money to pay our bills. And we moved out here and took temporary jobs. They paid room and board and gave us a small stipend, and interviewed on the 6 days off I had the entire summer. So it did suck to work seasonal, I'm not going to lie and pretend, but it got us out here. And HR, I know there's a few people that have moved and found HR jobs, and I'm really jealous of them. I ended up getting a recruiting position, which is still similar. And I can't say I love it, and it's fantastic, but it's a great salary, and it gives me a lot of opportunity to talk to people, which is what I do like. And I can kind of hit a little bit more about my tips and how I got employment and all that fun stuff later.
So when Paul and I actually kind of had the idea that we wanted to move back to New Hampshire, maybe a year or so before we actually did, and so we kind of began to save up so that we could actually take some time off in between quitting our jobs and getting a new one and do some traveling and visiting family. And so when we got to New Hampshire, we didn't have jobs yet, and so we found actually just a kind of a cheap place to stay. And then, so, searching online, we used Indeed. My trick actually was on Indeed, you can do OR searches, so I would search for like Excel or Access or SQL, etc., so that anything with any of those keywords in it would come up on my search results. So that's one thing I did. And that website is great because it kind of conglomerates all the different jobs websites, so you don't have to go to Monster and Career Builder and all the different ones. So we kind of had the experience of moving without having jobs first and then looking when we got here. And so that might be interesting to people. Another thing I did was I looked for lists of companies. So, for example, like companies that are really flexible with scheduling and working from home, for example, and looked for companies that might be good to work for, and then see if they have stuff that I could do.
Great. So the next question, we have people here that have experience recruiting, experience transferring, experiencing starting their own business, and experience finding a traditional job. So based on your experience both in your particular industry and the type of work you have, what recommendations would you have for people who are looking to move to New Hampshire, who want to find work? What would you tell them to do? What are some good ideas you might have?
So if you actually have a job that will transfer, obviously, that's a no-brainer. Obviously, transfer it up here and start working. If you have a traditional office job that you're not sure if it'll transfer, or you don't have a remote work arrangement, you can actually make your own remote work arrangement. There's a book called The 4-Hour Workweek from Tim Ferriss. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this. It's an excellent book. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek. Go check it out. But he gives 5 steps that you can actually use to try to convert your current office job to a work-from-home type of job. Is it okay if I just go ahead and cover that real quick?
Go for it.
Cool. So the first thing you do is increase the company's investment in you, right? So take all the training they offer, make sure you are a very valuable employee to them. The second thing, prove increased output while you're off-site. So you're going to need to prepare for this step. This is a very important step. You're going to need a couple of days so you can, call in, say you have some kind of communicable disease that is only going to last a couple of days and, you just need to stay home, you're still able to work. Or you could say you've got contractors coming to work on the house and you have to supervise them, whatever. What you need are a couple of days where you're going to be working from home and the company can't really do anything about it, right? So during those 2 days, you really need to document everything that you do, increase your output, even if you have to proactively decrease your output at work a little bit, so that way the couple of days that you spend working from home, you're like, oh my God, look at all the stuff I got done. If you're in a tech job, leave an email trail. The intention here is to really show that you're more productive working remotely than you are working at the office, because you don't have to deal with distractions, you don't have to deal with the commute, so you're actually adding time to your day by staying home and be more productive. The third thing, prepare the quantifiable business benefit, right? So create a bullet point list of how much more you achieved outside the office. You're going to need to present this remote work arrangement to your boss as a good business decision, not a personal perk, right? So this has to make sense from a dollars and cents standpoint to your boss, not just, I want to work from home because I want to. So the fourth thing, propose a revocable trial period, right? So start by negotiating like a 2-week trial run for like 2 days a week of remote work. Document how much more productive you are when you work from home, and you don't have to deal with those distractions like I mentioned with the commute and all the meetings, the endless meetings that go on in the office. And the fifth part is expand your remote time. So let's assume that the trial period went well. Negotiate for more time. Negotiate for 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Eventually, you work up over a several month period, you work up to where you're never coming to the office at all, or maybe you're coming in 1 day a week, to catch up on stuff there. But, it's a step-by-step method for turning a traditional office job into a remote work arrangement that benefits you and the company. So 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss, check it out.
Test. Okay, so before moving, I would go on the FSP forum and I would ask several questions. And one of these questions was, this was before I had tried to start anything, my own business back in California, and I asked, well, should I wait to do that until I get to New Hampshire, or should I do it before? Should I do it in my home state? And everybody was telling me, no, just come to New Hampshire and you start it here. Forget that. And I'm glad that I didn't take that advice. If you're in a service business, you want to start as soon as possible. Start at your home state. Because you want to get as much of a leg up as you can once you get here. There's a lot to learning about how to run your own business, and you don't want to. That's the least of your worries here. When you come here, you're trying to secure housing. You're buying things. You're still learning the lay of the land and trying to build a business acumen. Shouldn't be one of those things. So if it's something that doesn't necessarily require a physical setup, I would say get on it. And as far as the paperwork involved, it's definitely less over here in New Hampshire. It's very straightforward. All you need to do is turn in one piece of paper. It's both a business license and a DBA, all in the same sheet. Back in California, you would have to file with your city, you would have to file with your county, and you would have to make sure that your DBA or doing business name is published in a newspaper. So it's definitely less work over here, and I want to get into why I chose New Hampshire, why I found it favorable for at least my type of business. Over here, you have a lot less chains and a lot more independent companies, and because of that, there is much more potential with small businesses hiring your services, whether it's creative or distributing your wholesale. But the thing is, they're definitely less, I guess, what's the word?
Structured?
I don't know, like...
They've got their contracts in place. They don't have their contracts in place.
Yeah, and it's much more... It's much more like network-based over here. I mean, they have a greater need, but they don't necessarily recognize it, and that's a little bit of a struggle. You're like, well, you so need this, but you don't even see it. You don't even recognize it. Were you going to say something?
No.
Sorry. Okay. Receptive. That was the word. I had it right here on my notes. Yeah, that's it.
I'm really good at getting lost, so I think it was like advice or something that we're giving.
Yeah, based on your experience in your industry, and you're a recruiter.
Yeah,
so what would you recommend to people who are looking to come to New Hampshire and find work? What steps would you recommend that they take to make that happen?
I mean, it's the advice everyone gives, which I haven't followed myself, so I feel kind of stupid saying it. But get a 603 number. My mom doesn't like to call long distance, so I still have an Indiana number. What are you gonna do? I don't know why it's really important, but I do what she says. So get a 603 number. It's really easy. Your provider should be able to change it for you. Like my husband did it. He went on Sprint online and did a little chat with a representative, and they're like, that'll be done tomorrow when you turn off your phone. Really easy. And get a New Hampshire address or a P.O. box, or find someone that you shouldn't do that because it's not what you're supposed to do, but maybe will let you use their address, but you shouldn't do that because that's not what you're supposed to do. And recruiters are your friends. We don't work for you, and that sucks, because I wish I worked to place people and everyone I talked to I was able to place. That's not how it works. But we work with companies that are looking to hire people, and a recruiter is basically like your own personal little HR person. If they think you can do the job and they really believe in you, their job is to tout you to their client. And as long as you're honest and you say, I can do a phone screen anytime you need me to, and make... when I was looking from Indiana, I was like, I can be there in 2 days. I don't care. I'll take off of work. You want to interview me? I'll be there in 2 days. That gives me enough time to figure out who's in that city that I can get a place to crash on, and find a credit card with enough money on it to get me gas. Maybe it's not as easy. I had an 18-hour drive, so I could do it in 2 days, but whatever that number looks like for you. And I put on my resume, like, available to relocate, 2 weeks notice. Like, I had that on there. And jobs boards are your friend. This is how you get recruiters to call you. Put as many fun little adjectives in your resume as you can about what you do in your skill set. If you got access in Excel and you think like, oh, that crap's not useful, people like me search job boards through keywords, and that's where you're going to get it. Your big three, Monster, Career Builder, Indeed. You can upload resumes. As soon as you upload a resume, and like my database just pulls in information due to keywords on updated resumes. So that'll get you in front of people without you having to do outreach. Some of them are going to be sucky, like Taco Bell's looking to hire an assistant manager. Are you interested? You need to say no. Get a LinkedIn. Start following companies. I saw somebody with a Dine t-shirt. That's an awesome company to work for in Manchester. Start finding those awesome companies. Follow them on LinkedIn. Find people that work there, target them. I have a lot of advice, and I'm not afraid to talk to you guys after this or answer your questions, because I can just keep rambling, so I'm going to stop. But I did it, I just did it through jobs boards. I found my job on Craigslist in the New Hampshire jobs board, because it's free to post for employers. That's how I got here. And if you're not as comfortable saying, I guess it's one question, if you're moving and they're like, why'd you move here? And you're like, I'm with the Free State Project and I'm going to change your political background. Isn't it going to be great? Come up with a good reason. I want to go to graduate school, and Dartmouth is the best PhD for me in terms of my career goals. Like, I'm going to go to school here. I've always made that a point to get higher education, and this is where I can do the best. So anyway, that's what my advice would be for now.
So on a related point about, what do I tell someone in a job interview, why I'm moving here, why I decided to move here? For us, since Paul originally came from New Hampshire, it was, a little bit easier to come up with a, kind of not a story that's not a lie. It's make sure it's the truth, but, come up with a reason that's not like, I don't want to live I don't want to live in California anymore. 80% of people who are from New Hampshire, and you'll get the occasional person who actually lives in Massachusetts and works in New Hampshire, but 80% of New Hampshire people will say, oh yeah, I would never want to live in LA. And you got to watch out about making fun of Massachusetts, because you will get people who live there and like it. So just come up with reasons. I love skiing. I wanted to live where it's actually has 4 seasons. I mean, there's lots of good reasons to live here besides the political stuff, which you might not want to bring up in a job interview. On the note of recruiters, I actually did have an interview with a recruiter early on, and I was really excited. I thought they would help me a lot. And
the bastards.
Sorry. maybe you weren't. It wasn't you. So I found that the recruiter wasn't really selling me as well as I sold myself, you know? Like, I'm like, well, you know, I could probably do more than that job that you asked for. Like, and the other thing was there were a couple of companies that I probably would have applied for on my own had they not said, oh, yeah, I'm working on that for you. So I feel like if you find after a couple weeks that your recruiter isn't really doing a lot for you, maybe just go around them. I don't know what Brittany would say, but there are some companies I regret not applying to directly because the recruiter said they would ask for me. So, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now open it up for questions. If anyone wants to come forward and use the microphone, go ahead. Thanks.
I was just wondering, do you have any pointers for small town job hunting?
It depends on your industry, especially if you're here, because small towns, we're really still, I'm not familiar with this, but the help wanted sign in the window is very big here. Mm-hmm. And so it really is, you know, walking in and, you know, getting that handshake and saying, I'm looking for a job. What are you looking for? I think small town job hunting is a lot easier, actually, in New Hampshire than large town.
Also, I was wondering if you guys had anything to say about, like, temp work agencies.
I was just at a huge job fair that the unemployment office put on. I don't know any for New Hampshire. That was awesome. But there are quite a few. It's not as prevalent as I'm used to in the Midwest. But I think any temporary work that'll get you started here is worth it. I mean, you only have to, you know, pluck the chickens for a few months to find a real job. I don't know. Unless you want to pluck chickens, that's cool.
A lot of companies actually will bring full-time employees in through the temp work agencies, so they'll hire people on a temp basis, and then at the end, you know, it's kind of like an extended interview, right? So I think it's definitely a good way to get your foot in the door. Cool.
And also, I was wondering, are there any, like, certifications that'd be helpful for, like, an entry-level worker to get, like the food handler's card or something?
It depends on what industry you like. I mean, if you're into, you know, food service, absolutely. I think certifications in general are a great idea. I mean, I'm in the tech industry. Certifications are everything, you know. I don't have a college degree, but I've got a butt ton of certifications, and, you know, it works out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in the engineering field, but I'd really like to avoid, I guess, southern New Hampshire coastal areas. Are there any pockets more up north in the mountains or anything like that for a technical field like that?
So this may not be the answer you're looking for, but we found a town that we could live in that's rural, but we can drive to Nashua, or potentially we could drive to Manchester to work there. There are a couple companies way up north. There is Hypertherm in Hanover, which is a tech company, a pretty big employer, actually. And, I was in, actually, supply chain in California, and so I found a couple companies that were distributors up north. Paul, you know a couple big ones in the Lake region.
Yeah, well, there are a few tech companies, fairly large tech companies in Hanover area. And there are, tech. It's amazing in New Hampshire. In my experience, I've gone up north through my work to visit companies, and it'll just be woods, and it'll look like there's nothing there, and you'll go down a drive, and then there'll be this giant plant there in the middle of nowhere, with 1,000 people working there or more. So that does exist. The truth is that the most jobs in New Hampshire are in the sort of southeast portion of the state, between Nashua, Manchester, Seacoast general area. There are jobs elsewhere. I would say that, so you can look elsewhere. Also, I would say, though, that just because it's in the southern part of the state doesn't mean you can't live rurally. Like Melissa was saying, we live really in the middle, very, very much rurally. Our town has 1,500 people, and we have lots of space, and we're 35 minutes from our work in Nashua. So one thing that's different about New Hampshire than a lot of other places is that you can drive a really short distance, and we drive past a lot of rural areas to get to our place. So even shorter than 35 minutes, 20 minutes, and be in a rural place, even though you're relatively close to the city. So.
I definitely agree that location is important here personally, and it's a good idea to research your industry and pick your location wisely, because you could really one of the reasons why I'll plug the Seacoast right now was because of its proximity to Manchester. The industry happenings in the Seacoast itself, a lot of young small business, and they're willing to pay that premium money to bring their business up. And I know that you don't want to, ideally you don't want to be working in Massachusetts, but if that's going to keep you in New Hampshire, then that's something to consider. Something I know you guys were talking about, like local jobs. So there's a website called seacoast.io, and it's a directory listing of all the digital creative jobs on the Seacoast. That it's seacoast.io. And as far as small town jobs, Exeter, the town that I'm from, has a job fair. And that's every April, and it's quite huge, and it's held in a town hall. So something I'm putting out there.
There's one in Salem coming up. I don't have the date because I left work to come here, and I left it from my mind. But there is another New Hampshire state putting it on in Salem, New Hampshire, which is southern. So that's happening this next month in July. And I'd recommend, for looking for jobs, find databases like Better Business Bureau, Chambers of Commerce, like the Northern Chambers of Commerce. You're going to find some good companies or contacts for companies in terms of networking. Hey, I'm looking for a job in the North. Can you mention it when you go to your lunch meet and greet on Thursday? I was just at the etiquette panel. Everyone wants to help. If you ask for help, you'll get it. So reach out and ask for help from other people, network.
There's also a Facebook page for people looking for work. What is that Facebook page?
New Hampshire Job Alerts, NH Job Alert. I'm on there all the time.
There's also one for Free State Project as well.
That's what it is. I think it's the FSP NH Job Alert.
There you go. That's what it is.
Hi. I was wondering if we could discuss the financial side of things, because I think those are very big concerns when people are looking to relocate or change jobs. So in terms of like cost of living and what salaries might be compared to where somebody may be living currently. In my own experience, I moved here in 2007. I was previously in Buffalo, New York, and I found a comparable job here. And coming from an economically depressed area like Buffalo, I mean, it's a dying city. The salaries were all very low. The cost of living was also low, but at any rate, moving here to New Hampshire, I for a comparable job, I saw like a 60% increase in my starting salary when I came here for like a lateral move. So anybody who's coming from, a depressed area, that's definitely going to be a big deal, It's going to make the move very much easier. And then also, New York being a very high tax state, you come to New Hampshire and those taxes are much less. So in reality, my own personal experience, my real financial gain in moving to New Hampshire was probably almost a doubling of, my income in the practical sense. So, I think a lot of people probably have questions around that, like depending on where they're coming from. What are like I said, the salaries that are they can expect to find for their field here, and also the cost of living.
You guys are all from different areas. I'm from Indiana, which has the best cost of living in the United States, a little farther north. But I lived in Indianapolis for 2 years, and living in Manchester is comparable. Indianapolis is 1.3 million. Manchester's 130,000 on a good day when you count all the suburbs. My salary is the same, and the amount of money I pay for rent is the same as Indianapolis. So I don't know if you're from a Midwestern town. It kind of sucks because you kind of want to see a little bit of a decrease going from a big city to a smaller city. But I mean, it was still my budget's the same. It didn't decrease any. So
I think one good thing to look at, there are a lot of online cost of living calculators. Definitely check those out. But I think in general, it's less expensive to live here because of the tax situation. There is a bit more property tax, but there's no state income, there's no state sales tax. It's a very beneficial tax arrangement. It's whatever you're making now, add whatever it is your state's already taken away from you, right? So 5 to 7% of your income gets added right back into your paycheck.
How was your salary different? I'm wondering in engineering.
So I actually switched industries, and I switched from supply chain in a grocery chain to tech. And so I actually saw a pay increase even from California because I switched industries and kind of got a better position. So actually, on that note, though, the one thing I recommend is if you're planning to move, don't feel like I'm going to leave, and so I don't want to push for that pay raise or that, job promotion, because I kind of wish I had tried harder before I left. So, I had a good experience with the actual increase rather than, a decrease, which you might expect from California.
Yeah, coming from California, it's definitely a lower cost of living all the way around. I mean, we were dealing with 9.5% sales tax in LA County. And plus you had to deal with state income tax. It all adds up. And I mean, real estate here blows my mind how inexpensive it is. But then again, it's all relative. I mean, there's some people here who think, oh, it's kind of expensive. I can see that too. So cost of living, it's relative. Consider where you're at and where you're going.
Not to get too technical, but we have what's known here as current use. So if you are planning to live rurally and you buy a plot of land, you can actually, if it's already in what we call current use, and you leave it in current use, the tax on that land is super low. I mean, almost non-existent. They only tax you on the land that you develop or that you put no trespassing signs around, right? So if you are going to build a house, say you buy 10 acres, it's all in current use. Only take out of current use what you're actually going to build on and develop, and pay low taxes on the rest of it.
Hi, I seem to hear a lot about like IT, design jobs, especially on like the Free State Project page, a lot of office jobs. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I really am leaning towards making the move, but I kind of get the feeling that there's not a lot out there for me other than going to work at Jiffy Lube or a local auto mechanic where I got to search out like 10,000 auto mechanics and try to find one and give me a job.
Did you say an auto mechanic or an aircraft mechanic?
I'm an aircraft mechanic. I work right now at Sikorsky in Connecticut. Okay. So I am it's a different kind of technical, but I am a technically skilled guy. It just doesn't seem like I hear anything or see anything up here about that.
So we have the Manchester Regional Airport, which is pretty huge. You probably find something out there. There's also some smaller airports, like Nashua has its own airport, and it's a lot of private planes. So I'm thinking there may be opportunities there. Do you know of any opportunities?
Actually, Daniel Webster College is based in Nashua, and they just got purchased by ITT Tech. Daniel Webster brought out aircraft mechanics. That's what they did. And ITT Tech is taking it away. So I actually see it's going to be a supply and a demand issue. So I'm not saying like it's not great for you right now because it's not going to be that big of a need, but it's definitely going to become more pressing when you're not training new people in the state. That was the only one. And so they're going to have the need for that. It might be hard for you now, but if you're able to find something here in one of those small airports, and you'll be able to move up pretty fast in the next few years in your career because it's just going to be a void.
Well, I'm not overly concerned with just sticking with aircraft mechanics. What I was trying to get at overall is there seems to be like a dearth of like hands-on mechanical technical jobs that I see posted about or listed. So I was wondering about the overall availability. Is there a lot of manufacturing, maintenance type stuff in this state? Because I haven't seen it.
Manufacturing is really big. I wish I had a name of the business, the Chamber of Commerce, or the New Hampshire. Dang it! Something the state releases every year about the industries and how they're growing, and machining is big. It's very big out here. I can't think of the names or of anything off the top of my head, but there are a lot of smaller companies that don't really advertise because they're contracting for large companies, so their name's not important. But it is very big, and that's not even in the South. In the North, there's a lot of machine shops and high technical, manual skills. That didn't make any sense. High technical manual, but yeah.
Hi, just a couple of quick follow-up questions and more of a general one, but I may have just missed or not heard, but you mentioned a company in Manchester. I'm pointing at the recruiter.
Yeah, Dine.
What
He's
was the
right
name
there. He's got a shirt on that says Dine.
So is it DNS? Is that the name
DYN.
of the...
Dine. No, it's a really fast-growing entrepreneurial company.
Okay, I'll go ask him. But what kind of company is it? Is it tech?
Tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then...
and they're hiring again, aren't they? Oh, yeah.
And then the other specific question was for you. You said that, I think you said you do like a business, some kind of I just didn't catch what it was, and I was just curious because it sounded more up the alley of where I was looking.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer and front-end web developer. And so back in California, I worked with a co-partner. And then after leaving my full-time job here, we dissolved the co-partnership. So it's just me. I'm the principal. And that's what I do right now.
So
I'm really sorry to that guy from Dine. I just threw you under the bus.
So my more general question was sort of like the last guy, but a little bit a different twist on it. I can surf the internet. I don't know how to program. I don't know any of that. At one point I was thinking about that, but that's not my field. And clearly it sounds like obviously it makes sense, libertarians tend to be techie types, and so we're going to hear that from people here. But in the general state, I mean, if you're looking to either, say, start, and I know the answer is going to be it depends, but if you were looking to either start a business, whatever type, I wanted to kind of hear like how many hoops. I mean, I went to the farmer's market this morning. There's apparently hoops you have to do just to sell food, and it's not as like free as I thought it would be. So I'm curious how hard it is just to start a business. And then on another side would be just if you work in like finance or, something more like that, which is kind of where I'm at. So more office job, but not office tech, office finance, commercial real estate, something like that. Obviously these tech companies have to have those functions. So,
yeah.
But just curious how much you find of that, because obviously you're speaking to an audience that's largely tech, but for those of us who aren't, just curious.
No, I'm immersed in the tech market, but like my husband's in residential property management. He was, once again, you got to kind of be willing to take a job that's based out of Massachusetts or maneuver around. They put him through, anyone's interested in this is a great entry-level opportunity. They look for people with management skills. It's a $40,000 a year salary, which if that's way below what you make, then I'm sorry, and you're awesome and you rock, but they do an 8-week, they do a 90 days training. They train you in all the state and local laws for Manchester or for New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and then they place you at one of their properties, and you let them know what you'd be willing to work at. So he obviously is not willing to work in Boston, but he was willing to work in the Tier 2 suburbs, and he got placed in Concord, New Hampshire. Just kind of lucked out. That's that kind of side of things. And then there's also a lot of law firms that take a lot of admin work and things like that. A lot of finance firms. Industry is big out here. We just talk tech because a lot of these liberty-minded people are tech-related. They're the ones that were on the internet and making a fuss and a stink. But no, it's not that the rest of the industries are dead in New Hampshire. That's not how it is. I'm sure you don't just work with tech companies.
No. I have a niche that I target, but I'll take basically just about any client. I mean, you have to. And again, I think your question, you got, it's definitely industry specific, because one industry will be, I can't talk generally or broadly on.
So one thing no one's mentioned is that New Hampshire has a strong culture of local small businesses. And so I feel like, unlike a lot of other places in the country, people want to support their local guy. If maybe if you're new, you'll have a bit of time for people to get used to you. But people really want to support local business. If you're doing something cool in their town, they will want to go to support it,
Do you want to talk a little bit about the paperwork and the process for actually starting a business? I think that was the other part of your question, right? Was what's actually involved in starting up a business?
And actually, maybe a thought just for other people, because my life situation, I'm not going to be moving anytime really soon. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to be moving very soon, probably, but I'm just curious if there's anything also related to that you're looking around and saying, gosh, why hasn't someone started this business? Because maybe someone in here might hear that and be of that mind and do that. So that would be an add-on to that, and that kind of tie it together with the process of starting one, maybe.
Okay, so one thing that's good to do is get involved with small business groups or young professional groups. Go to meetup.com. They have a couple groups where people talk about their startup ideas. And I know there's one in Portsmouth. There's several actually, and LinkedIn has that as well. Again, the paperwork is pretty straightforward, but I'm talking about a service business. I'm not necessarily talking about starting a manufacturing business or setting up a plant or warehouse. That's going to be a whole different game. Yeah.
So say you found your perfect company, perfect location, send in your resume, fill out a general application, but it's just an issue of them not having any openings. What's the appropriate time that you start bugging them again, or is there? Can you do too much?
No, I don't think too much is like sending them flowers and being like, I really like your company. Find different ways to connect with them, so then it doesn't look like, you're kind of creepering on them, but they're not really sure how much you're creepering on them. Like, oh, I just happened upon your LinkedIn profile when you send connect with me. I was wondering if you guys had any openings, or I just want to be proactive. This is kind of what I'm able to do, and I'd love to talk more, even if you don't have an opening, so that way you've got my information. Send an email the next month. Make a phone call the third month. Start following them, because the more that you're involved and you show that you're really interested, and if you do have a viable skill set for them, they're going to take notice. And I've had companies make jobs for people because you've got someone engaged. A company, this is really boring HR stuff, but employee engagement is huge for HR professionals. If you're already engaged and you don't work there, they want you on site.
So one thing you can do is use your social network. That's actually a huge part of it. So you may not get a job with that specific company, but if you get the word out that you're looking for a job and you talk to your friends about it, somebody's going to work for somebody that's looking for somebody, right? And so I have actually submitted resumes for people that I've just met in a bar. And they're cool, I like them, they seem to have the skill set, and so I submit their resume internally, which for my company is actually a shorter path in to employment. So definitely utilize your social network and just put the word out that you're looking.
So to take some pressure off my friend over there, I also work for a company that is hiring tech-type people, SQL programmers and Oracle developers, and also if you're in payroll or HR, you could talk to me as well. And the company is actually hiring quite a lot, so everybody can come over this way after they're done with him.
Anyone with healthcare experience, I'm working with a healthcare IT company in Lowell, Mass., which is just over the border from Nashua. Oh my gosh, do I have jobs for you. So yeah. What's your question? Hi.
Well, I just wanted to add to what Paul was saying. Is it Paul? Oh, Dave. In a past life, I was a job search trainer, and what they told us to say is that the majority of jobs are found through networking. It's just like a universal law.
Totally agree.
Anyone else?
Does everyone have a
Now's your
LinkedIn
chance.
here? We talk about social networking. This is a great way to. Does everyone have show of hands? Who's got a LinkedIn? Who's added people on LinkedIn in the past week? Oh. Who's actively searching for a job in New Hampshire right now, or going to go do it when you get home? Okay, all the people that just did that, go add some people. Find it. When you add me on Facebook, add me on LinkedIn, because you just got exposed to my network. If you're interested in someone at, I don't know what companies, at Harvard University Information Technology, I'm connected with hiring managers that I might not think to introduce you to, but now you can see their information and send a request to them. Hey, I'm wondering if you have anything available for someone with my skill set. And just because we're connected, you have access to their information. It's kind of cool.
One thing, too, about working from home is if you can negotiate a remote work arrangement, your company doesn't even have, if it's a big enough company, it doesn't even have to have an office in the state. My company doesn't have an office at all in this state, but I live here, I work here, I pay no taxes here. It's pretty fantastic. Occasionally I have to drive down to Cambridge, which is a big pain in the butt, but whatever.
I forgot to mention that the company I work for has many people who are remote. So in theory, I haven't actually seen this happen, but you could get a job for them and then move here later and still work from home. I'm not promising that, but it's possible.
Yeah, I wanted to just echo what people are saying about LinkedIn. I think it is, everybody's aware of this already, but it is kind of a necessary thing, I think, these days for job searching. I walked into my job interview, and the first thing anybody said to me was, wow, you look exactly like your LinkedIn picture. So, I mean, they are looking at that. That's, and it's another way to connect with people. It's great because it's sort of like a resume combined with a social networking aspect, because you have the friends, the contacts that you have in the way Facebook does. So. And
don't try and get past the, oh my, this is really creepy, and they just, found a bunch of people I know that I didn't know I told them I know. You're giving your information publicly, and I know it's hard for privacy people, but sometimes you need to give up a little privacy to get a job. Sorry.
When you're done.
Good idea.
One more thing. I know we talked about, people mention Indeed.com, but I just, I was looking on Monster and Dice and a bunch of other stuff, and Indeed kind of collects all of those. So I think everybody's aware of LinkedIn, everybody's probably aware of that, but just in case you're not, just search location New Hampshire and then enter keywords. And in my experience, you get a lot of hits on most of the keywords that people have asked me about jobs, topics people have asked me about jobs and industries. There are lots of jobs on there. I recommend that for sure.
A new engine I came across in my industry is called ZipRecruiter.com. So if you want to proactively find a recruiter, that's a place that we post. ZipRecruiter. It's got all industries and things like that, but it's a way to contact people who are in contact with hiring managers. So.
And FSP Job Alerts on Facebook.
Yeah, FSP Job Alert. I think we had 70 new jobs posted before I left, like on Wednesday. Not me posting. Someone went and posted 70 different ones. So they're pulling from jobs boards or from their own companies and putting them in one central location. So if you don't want to go on Indeed, at least it's kind of hard to search through, but they're there.
Do you have any more questions? Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys touched on it. Maybe staffing agencies are definitely a great way just to get a job. When I first went to New Hampshire, I went through a staffing agency until, I could find a better job that I actually didn't, like. So, and I guess another comment, I think there's a question about manufacturing. Everywhere I've worked in New Hampshire and around New Hampshire has been for manufacturers, so there's a lot of manufacturing. I'm out of the Keene area. We're we have farms, and I worked at a yogurt factory. There's gravel pits. There's gun manufacturers. I mean, there's a lot there. There's ball bearing, medical devices. So if you're looking for manufacturing, New Hampshire is definitely a great place for that.
Very cool. Good story. Yeah, the point that you made initially about the staffing companies, we did talk about that a little bit, but it's an excellent point, and it's certainly worth revisiting, which is if you can get a temp assignment through a staffing company, definitely take advantage of it, because it is a great way to get your foot in the door and prove what a valuable employee you are, and then have them hire you on full time.
I think we maybe have time for one more question if there's anyone that wants to ask a question. If not, we'll wrap up. All right. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my husband and I are academics. We're graduating with our PhDs in 2015, and if we can find a job here, we're going to move. Does anyone know like how to? I know we had how to get a job at a university or whatever, how to do it, but I wasn't sure if there was like some sort of secret Free State Project people that work at universities that are awesome at helping me find a job.
What PhDs do you have?
We're both in education. He's higher ed and I'm PK-12.
So are you looking for like teaching jobs?
Teaching, research, whatever.
So we do have some very fantastic universities in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
So I would certainly pursue that with them,
I just wasn't sure if you guys knew people that know people.
I don't.
No, but if you do, that's what I want to do when I grow up. So,
if you meet some people, hook us up.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming, and let's give a round of applause for the panel. Thank you, panel.
Lay your head down here beside me. The rain can't reach us here. It's safe and dry. The silence is a sea.